I just showered, so that's why I still have this thing around my neck. Also, I put on my turtleneck backwards when I got out of the shower, and so this was like where the back of my where my hair was, and so that was all wet. So now I got this fucking wet spot on my turtleneck. Anyway, it's okay. We move on. Got a video to make. Hi friends, what's up? It's Jaime here. Welcome back to another Fangirl Fridays video. For today's Fangirl Fridays video, I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite YouTube shows at the moment, which is, as you could probably tell from the title of this video, Puppet History. For a little background of how I first came across Puppet History, like many people were, I was a really big fan of BuzzFeed Unsolved Supernatural and BuzzFeed Unsolved True Crime. So in true Jaime fashion, I didn't actually start watching True Crime or Supernatural until they were in their final season. Like, they recently just ended. Well, actually, it's been has it? No, it hasn't been a year, has it? I don't actually know how long it's been since they ended, but they've ended recently. But it was right when they announced that they were doing the final seasons of BuzzFeed Unsolved, True Crime, and Supernatural that I was like, maybe I'll go watch it. And then I watched them and I was like, oh man, I fucking was missing out, bro. And now it's over. I was like, damn. But you know, I fell in love with Ryan and Shane. So once I saw that they had like their own channel, their own like other company, I was like, well, their own company. BuzzFeed's not their, you know what I fucking meant. When they had their own like company, their own channel, I was like, fuck yeah, I'm gonna go check that out. Now, if you don't know, Ryan Bergara and Shane Madej, who are the co-hosts of BuzzFeed Unsolved, True Crime, and Supernatural, founded their own production company with another former BuzzFeed producer, Stephen Lim, and that company channel is called Watcher. I also wanted to take a really quick second to say that even though I'm not going to be talking about any of Steven's like specific shows in this video, I would just like to say we love Stephen Lim here. It's just this isn't about you, I'm sorry. Anyway, because you might know this if you've been following me for any amount of time, but I really love like horror stuff. I love spooky, scary stuff. So when I first started watching like videos from Watcher, I immediately gravitated towards Are You Scared? And also Too Many Spirits, even though Too Many Spirits is more on the goofy side, but I still love both of those shows. I think they're really, really great. They're also excellent if you want to go check those out after you've checked out Puppet History. Which is so funny because originally I really wasn't interested in watching Puppet History like at all. Like, I like puppets, but I really love like the spooky, scary stuff. And that's what I essentially kind of came to Watcher for in the first place, because I loved BuzzFeed Unsolved, True Crime, and Supernatural. But because I binge shows very, very quickly, I very quickly ran out of spooky content. So I was like, well, I guess I'll watch Puppet History, and then I loved it. I was like, well, it's like, I'm sure I'll probably still like it, and then I loved it. Because I was like, well, you know, I was a really big fan of Drunk History on Comedy Central. I'm like, I'm kind of getting similar vibes in a way. So I'm like, let me give this a shot. And it's still like, it still has like Ryan and Shane in it. So I'm like, I'm sure I'm probably still gonna like it anyway. And I was not disappointed. My expectations were like completely just like surpassed. I was taking off the thingy and I was just like, oh no, I still got a wet spot. I never learn, but it's okay. Puppet History, next to Are You Scared, is my favorite Watcher show. I love it so much. And it's also, I had to look up a bunch of certain things about like I've watched every episode of Puppet History, but there was just so many like behind the scene like things I didn't know because I hadn't been watching like Watcher since the beginning. So I only just recently found out that it was actually the very first like actual like show that they put out on Watcher, which is really cool. I didn't know that before. So in case you didn't know, Puppet History was created by Shane, and according to the wiki, it is a dark comedy edutainment, if that's how you say it, show, which I didn't know was a thing until I looked it up for the video just now. So the host of Puppet History is a puppet aptly named the Professor, who is voiced and puppeteered by Shane himself. And for each episode, you have 2 contestants. You have Ryan, who is always there, as well as a special guest contestant. They've got a lot of different people who have, like, there have been some returning guests, but there's like a lot of different people who kind of like come and go throughout like the different seasons. So each episode is about some like random historical event, or sometimes it's about like a specific like historical figure. And throughout the episode, the professor quizzes Ryan and the other guests about whatever the subject is for that episode. And for every correct answer they get, they're awarded little jelly bean points, which is really cute. And while the professor calculates who won each episode using the very complex victory algorithm, his words, not mine, we get to see a musical performance by a guest puppet, and I just, the musical performances were like the thing that really drew me in about Puppet History, like immediately, because they really appeal to the musical theater nerd that I am. And honestly, like, don't get me wrong, the songs are very silly, they are very goofy, but they're really good. They're actually really good. I really like them. I love, my favorites are the Or song, and then the God song. That was also a really good one. That was like the first one I showed my boyfriend. I think it was the God song and then the Or song that I showed my boyfriend, because I was like trying to explain to him like what Puppet History was, and that was my reference. And then once the points have been counted, the whole shtick of like the show is that Ryan never wins. Even if he technically outscored the other guest, like, he never wins. And I'm not gonna say anything else on that front because I don't want to give too many spoilers in case you haven't seen, in case you're not like recently caught up with the show, but so that's all I'm gonna say about that. But yeah, so that's basically like the basic premise of the show. It's really fun. I've just been having a blast like watching it. I'm so obsessed with it. I listen to it when I go to sleep. I put it on when I'm doing homework. Like, it's just, I love that show so much. I've watched like all the episodes like a gazillion times at this point. I've also started to get my boyfriend into it. He really likes Ryan and Shane, so I'm like, here, like, look at this. I'm just like trying to because I tried to get him into BuzzFeed Unsolved, and he wasn't really into that. He didn't really care for that, but I was like, because my boyfriend really likes history, so I was like, here's history, and here's Ryan and Shane. I'm like, check this out, you know? But yeah, so that's been very fun, watching him kind of like react to it. I still haven't watched the behind the scenes videos of Puppet History. I know. I'm a fake fan. It's on my list of things. I watch a lot of YouTube, y'all. I watch a lot of YouTube, so I haven't gotten to it yet. But I'm gonna get to it, but I know I'm such a fake fan that I haven't watched the behind the scenes, but I really do want to, so I'm going to eventually. Although I did watch, which is kind of unrelated, but it's still a bit on topic for what we're talking about. So I watched, because I've mentioned this before, but I love the Try Guys. So I watched their the Try Guys make puppets without instructions video, and one of the guest judges for that video was the lady who I believe she made the Professor as well as like some of the other puppets for Puppet History. So getting to like hear her explain like about like the construction of puppets and like what she kind of does, it was really cool and really interesting. I mean, it's kind of one of those things where like I've always kind of like, you know, just assumed that puppet construction, puppet making, I don't know, is there a specific word for that, is pretty complicated, but like really getting to see like how like an expert kind of like broke it down was really fascinating. And I have so much respect for everyone who's a part of like Puppet History, especially Shane, because, you know, this is like he conceptualized like all of this, and he does so much like as like a part of the show besides like just being the host. Like, I didn't know this, again, I looked this up for this video, but I didn't realize that Shane made like a lot of the puppets. I did not realize that like the other puppets who are like the musical guests who do the musical performances, I didn't realize that he made so many of those. I was like, wow. I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I saw a very brief clip of him talking about that. I was like, oh my god, I did not realize that. Like, god damn. Like, and he writes like the songs that the musical guests perform and that he performs, and like, it's like, oh my gosh, this man is so multi-talented. It's like, what can't he do, you know? I always have so much respect for like the people behind the scenes too, because there's so much that goes into these shows, and I think that people don't always like remember, because it's like, oh, it's just like a YouTube show, but there's like so many like moving parts that like go into like making a show like Puppet History, and it's such an excellent show. And so I give like massive props to like everybody, like including like the behind the scenes like crew who work on the show, because they're all so talented. Like, I can barely operate any kind of video or audio equipment that isn't my phone. So I give massive props to the people who are able to do it well, because it just, again, it's like, you can tell just like how much hard work goes into, again, making a show like Puppet History, because of just how polished everything is. And even when it's, because the one of the great things about Puppet History that I love is that even when, because, you know, when Shane's doing the little puppeteering stuff, sometimes there's like things that'll like fall over or like whatever, or things that'll kind of like get messed up, but you know, they kind of just roll with it. And so like, even when there are like the little like hiccups, like it's still just a really, really excellent like show. Like, the production quality is just top notch. I think all of the Watcher shows have that like excellent quality to them, but clearly if I had to give a specific recommendation for which show I think you should start with, it would have to be Puppet History. I think even if because I would not consider myself, mainly because I really struggled in like high school with like history. My history classes were like always super brutal, because I was an AP kid. It was awful. But so I wasn't like the biggest like history person, but I still really, really love like that part of the show, and then like the puppet aspect and the musical aspect. Like, there's so many like parts of the show that just make it really wonderful, and I feel like there's a little bit of something for everybody in it. And so I highly, highly recommend that you watch Puppet History if you have not watched it already. It is really, really good. Now, to round out this video, I'd quickly like to highlight some of my favorite Puppet History episodes. My absolute favorite episode, like by far, has to be the one about Miyamoto Musashi. Like, that one, I really, really like that episode. I love everything about that episode. Also, fun fact, this is a very silly, kind of obscure reference, but as I've mentioned many a times on this channel, the 2012 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon is my favorite show of all time. It is my absolute favorite show ever. And in one of the episodes of season 1, there is a Miyamoto Musashi reference. And that reference always like went over my head because especially when that episode first aired, I was like 10. But now, like, because I remember when I watched this episode, the Puppet History episode about Miyamoto Musashi, and I was like, that name sounds so familiar. And then I was rewatching season 1 of 2012 TMNT because it's on Netflix, and I was like, it's the same guy. I was like, oh my god, that's so cool. But yeah, so now I'm very pleased that every time I watch back that episode, I'm like, I know who that is. It's so dumb, I'm sorry, but I love that. I also just love like the story of Miyamoto Musashi. I think he's really interesting, and that episode has my favorite musical number, which I mentioned before. It's the one with the gay oars, and that's just like a sentence that if you haven't watched Puppet History, if you're unfamiliar with it, you're probably like, what the fuck did you just say? But I promise it makes sense within the context of the show. You're just gonna have to trust me on that one. I also really love the episodes about Qingxi and Polycarpa. Because I had never heard of either of those women before puppet history, and they were so cool. They were really badass in like their own ways, and just like listening to their stories, like I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm like, I can't believe I haven't heard of these people before. So those, I really love their stories, so those episodes I also really recommend. So those are definitely like my top 3: the Miyamoto Musashi episode, the Chingshi episode, and then the Polycarpa episode. Those were all really good, but they're all good. But it's like, if nothing else, if you have no interest in watching any of the other puppet history episodes, those 3 I would definitely recommend, because even just like as standalone episodes, like again, like on their own, they're really good because they tell these really interesting stories about these really interesting people. Although I really do recommend that you watch all of puppet history, because season 5 has recently been airing, and oh man, the lore has just been off the walls. And you might think that, you know, this little puppet show doesn't have lore, but it does. It's more than just the history, the historical figures and the historical events in like actual history. There's like also lore within the context of the show, which is very exciting. This season has been a blast. Again, I don't really want to say too much about it because I really want to encourage you guys to like watch it for yourselves, so I don't want to spoil anything. But this season has been, it's been a wild ride, and I'm just very excited to see where it goes next. I'm trying to remember when this video is gonna go up. I don't remember off the top of my head. I think like the second to last episode of season 5 of Puppet History is going to be airing the same day this video goes up. So I can't wait to see the season finale. I'm very excited. I'm so excited. I also, if any of you have been keeping up and watching it, please let me know down below in the comments, because I really want someone to talk to about it, because again, I've been watching it with my boyfriend, but he's not caught up yet, so I don't have anyone to talk about it. Like, I really want to talk about it. So let me know that down below in the comments if you have been keeping up with the show. Anyway, that is all I have for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Once again, let me know down below in the comments if you've been keeping up with Puppet History. Let me know what your favorite episode is, also if you've been watching the show, or let me know down below if you plan on watching it, and just let me know just like your general thoughts, because I love this show. I love talking about it because it's so silly, but I just like, it's so good. I love it. Once again, that is all I have for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I upload every Wednesday and Friday, except when I don't, and sometimes on Saturdays, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.